Hi everyone, I'm Jo Fry. This is my channel Jojo Fry Rocks, and in this video I'm going to be talking about GAS, which broadly usually stands for gear acquisition syndrome, sometimes guitar acquisition syndrome, but I'm going to be covering kind of more than guitars really. And is there a way that we can sort of stop or reduce it, and what gear do you actually really need, and how do we kind of make the most of or get the best out of the guitars and amps and gear that we already own? Is there a way that we can sort of get more out of those things without spending a lot more on new guitars or different amps? And so those are kind of some of the things that I'm going to be talking about today, and a big kind of part of that is going to be around pedals, and pedals are kind of something that I think it's all too easy to spend money on, because they're generally fairly reasonably priced, unless we're talking about a Klon or something. A lot of them sit in the kind of £50 to £100 area, which makes them quite potentially an impulse buy. It's all too easy to sort of scroll Reverb or eBay or go into a guitar shop and just see something that you like or that appeals to you for some reason, and you just kind of think, oh, I'll give that a go. It's not something that I've ever done, because I've never really bought pedals. I've never really needed to, because I always had a digital modelling amp that had effects built in, and I do now. I have my Boss Katana, and that's got built-in effects as well, and with all the patches that I can download for free most of the time and sound like whoever I'm trying to sound like, and play kind of the songs that I'm trying to play and emulate. I can kind of achieve that really, more or less. I mean, if I could actually play the songs, just by like downloading a patch. But I've been thinking about this because I think for a couple of reasons really. Even the Boss Katana, as good as it is, when I first got it and when I was just using the panel to kind of go through the different sort of amps that were on there, I often found that I wasn't quite getting the tone that I wanted to get from the different guitars that I've got, and the kind of the EQ on the amp itself it wasn't quite hitting the mark. And that was when I got the Joyo EQ pedal, and since I've had that, that's been something of a revelation to me, in terms of just the wide variety of tones and sounds that enables me to get from the guitars that I've got, and just using the Katana without sort of any patches, or just kind of using the clean channel. It's quite incredible what you can do with that EQ pedal. So I think, you know, if I was going to say what essential bits of gear I think everyone should have in their setup, in their rig, an EQ pedal, you know, other than just a guitar and an amp, I think having an EQ pedal is an essential. So that's going to go on the list, and we're going to go through why that is, and I'm going to demo some of the things that I've been able to do with it. For example, it's one of the main tools that you can use if you have, let's say, a guitar with humbuckers, but you want to try and emulate the sound of a Strat. So you want to play something that sounds very much more like a single coil sound. You can do that, and I'm going to show you how you can do that using the EQ pedal. The other way round, admittedly, is a little more difficult, but I think you can get there sort of 85–90%, again, using the EQ pedal. And again, I'm going to sort of talk through how you can do that, how you can sort of fatten up and beef up the sound of single coils and get more of that kind of deeper, richer, punchier sound, without having to, if you only have a guitar that has single coils, you don't have to go and buy a guitar with humbuckers if you get yourself an EQ pedal and just a basic amp. So we're going to sort of go through some of those things. But I think it's very interesting that there are these two sort of schools of thought or arguments, if you like, around tone. There's the sort of tone is in the fingers school of thought, that a lot of guitarists will say, it doesn't matter what you've got in your rig, it's all about how you play, it's all about your playing style, your individual unique kind of sonic identity. One of those guys is Nuno Betancourt from Extreme. I came across quite an interesting interview with him, and I'm just going to quote some of it, because I thought it's worth exploring. He says, "I have a love-hate relationship with pedals. That's why I don't use anything." Now, straight off the bat, that just simply isn't true, is it, Nuno? It's not true. I've seen so many rig rundowns on YouTube where you've got like an enormous pedal board. But anyway, in this interview from 1 year ago, I'll put the link in the description so that you can all go and have a listen to him saying this. He says he doesn't use anything. He says, "I've always felt they get in the way of what you're trying to say." He says he likes to hear players like Brian May, Jimmy Page. I want to hear the good, the bad and the ugly, meaning sometimes it's not the greatest tone in the world and it's not the prettiest to listen to, but I think there's an emotion there, and I think that what you do processing wise gets in the way of the notes, because there's a physicality that you have in your fingers. And to me, I always like to try to find that best straight shot from here to there, to that speaker, to that microphone, to the record. So, okay, maybe he's saying he doesn't particularly use effects and pedals and stuff in the studio. And he goes on a little bit to say that he doesn't even use EQ. Not sure what to make of that. Frankly, don't believe you. But that's what he's claiming. And then you kind of have, Josh even from JHS Pedals. So ostensibly he's selling pedals. But he describes what he calls the John Mayer effect. The John Mayer paradox. That's it. It's the John Mayer paradox. Where he says, John Mayer will go into a kind of a huge gig in a big auditorium, and he will have like not only his pedal board but a whole kind of rack of effects and processing, and it looks like sort of what computers used to look like in the 1960s. It just kind of is crazy, and yet he'll play a tiny little small club and he'll have 2 or 3 pedals, and you know what? His songs will sound the same. So that is the kind of John Mayer paradox, where no matter what he does to his signal chain and his sound, he will sound the same. And so that's even from someone who is trying to sell loads of pedals, I suppose. But I like Josh. He's very good. He's very upfront and honest. And to be perfectly honest with you, I think he could probably sell me anything. Like, I would probably buy anything from Josh, just because I like him so much. Anyway, so there's that kind of school of thought. And then, you know, there's the kind of more, I suppose, logical school of thought, which is that, no, everything affects your tone, right? So from the guitar that you're playing, the pickups that your guitar has, the strings that you play, the effects, the processing that you're using, the amp, certainly. I was watching a video the other day where it was an Andertons music video. They were doing a shootout between like a very inexpensive Squier Strat and a very, very expensive custom shop Strat. And he was kind of basically saying that it's less about the guitar, it's more about the amp. And he was just kind of saying he was actually shooting out a Boss Katana Gen 3 against a very kind of boutique high-end valve amp, which admittedly did sound better and even made the Squier Strat sound better. And he said I would always spend much more on an amp than on your guitar. So kind of make of that what you will. What I make of that is that the captain makes more of a markup on amps than he does on guitars, possibly. So you kind of have to like look at where some of this is coming from. But at the same time, you know, I've found a lot of useful information online and on YouTube that kind of shows you how you can use basically any kind of amp and any kind of guitar. You know, as long as your amp has got the basics in terms of controls. Because I know some don't even have the 3 EQs. There might just be a tone control. But if you have an EQ pedal, then actually you can almost take that out of the equation. So as long as you've got a fairly, you know, basic, decent amp, you can just use a guitar and a pedal to achieve most of the sounds that you want to achieve. But before we start diving into it, and I'll show you a few of the things that tips and advice that I've kind of learnt over the last couple of months with the EQ pedal. Before we do get into the actual demoing of the EQ pedal and the sort of different things that you can do to kind of tweak and change the sounds and tones from your guitars and your amp, I just wanted to share this short clip with you because I came across it the other day when I was doing some research for this video, and actually found it very funny because I don't actually know John Mayer at all, really. I haven't really listened to his music, so I know that's something that I need to sort out. I need to get into it, I know. But I was just interested to see what Josh was talking about and what this paradox thing was about. And I found this clip. And I don't know about his music, but I think he'd have an incredible stand-up career. And so I just wanted to sort of share this with you because it made me laugh.
Guitar players in the room. I'm about to give you a horrible piece of advice. It's a horrible fable. Guitar players love buying what's called effects pedals. The pedals you plug your guitar in, they make it do different stuff. They're like $200, $300, you know, that's around what they are. And guitar players are addicted to buying them because we're just too lazy to get better at playing guitar. It's kind of true. So, no, it's not true. We need to stay excited. They're like, the pedals are like steroids. Like, you're juicing if you buy a new pedal. You know what I mean, guitar players? Like, I'm juicing. And then there's this thing like, you buy the pedal, you're like, the pedal hasn't arrived yet, I don't have to play guitar. I'll play guitar when the pedal arrives. It's like just pushing shit off. I'll sing that demo when the new microphone comes, but it's back ordered. Like, all different ways to put off doing work. This guy's like, I'm in your head. So I was buying thousands of dollars worth of pedals. The FedEx guy every day was like, what are you ordering? I'm like, pedals. Also, I don't know why I'm being so honest with my FedEx guy. Get out of here, FedEx. You go around asking people what's in their boxes. What's wrong with you? It's not true, but for the purposes of the story, the FedEx guy had a problem with this. And at the very, very end of saying to myself, this is disgusting. I have a wall full of pedals. And I had thousands of dollars worth of pedals. And the last pedal I plugged in, it did this. It's reverb. And I went like this. And that song made me enough money to buy me thousands of dollars of pedals. You never know. That thing was 120 bucks. The whole song lives inside that pedal. You want to know what that song sounds like without the pedal? It sounds like this. That's not a weekend, that's a Wednesday. That's love at work. I love you guys and I never want to leave.
I just wanted to share another clip that made me laugh as well. This is Dan Hawkins from The Darkness. He's Justin's brother. He's the rhythm guitarist in The Darkness. One of my favourite guitarists as well. And yeah, he's not necessarily kind of weighing in on is tone in the fingers or is it in your gear and in your rig. But I think just kind of giving his thoughts around kind of whether pedals actually make a whole lot of difference to your overall sound or not.
I'm exactly the same as every other guitar geek. Every tour that we do, I'm on the phone to my guitar tech, making his life a misery. We're ordering loads of stuff in. We're breaking the old rig down. We're rewiring it. You know, let's try gold connectors this time. Let's just like anything to make it even slightly better. When deep down, I know it doesn't make any difference at all. It's like, you know, I play a full pelt into a Marshall. Nothing's going to make that much difference. So I guess my main pet peeve is with myself and others. Like, why do we have to be so geeky about it all? Why can't you just stop and just play and just get on with it? But no, we have to keep digging for what might be the ultimate tone when it doesn't actually exist.
All right, thanks, Dan. It doesn't actually exist. There we go. we can all just go home. Like, let's all just give up and go home. Of course, I think that was a little bit tongue-in-cheek, because if you've ever seen Dan's rig rundown and his pedal board, he obviously doesn't really believe that. So I think what he's saying there is that I think you can sort of take it too far. And I think, so this isn't like one of those for or against arguments, and you know, I'm not going to kind of say one school of thought about tone is right or more correct than the other. It is quite a personal thing, but I think the essence of what Dan was saying there is that there comes a certain point where you just have to realise that sort of like if you're playing a Les Paul at full volume through a full volume Marshall stack, don't spend the GDP of a small country on effects, because it isn't going to make that much of a difference. But in terms of stuff that does make a difference, What are the essentials? What are the things that I think you do need, and things that will help you and don't cost a fortune, and actually kind of give you that sort of bang for your buck. So without any further ado, I keep saying that in these videos. I don't know why. I'm not trying to make it a thing. I just tend to kind of waffle quite a lot. So I keep trying not to and then end up waffling more. Anyway, I'm going to stop now and we're going to look at some of the, I think, most useful advice and tips for how you use, in particular, EQ and an EQ pedal to get more of a range of sounds and tones out of the gear that you already have. I'm going to be using my PRS Tremonti SE for this first demonstration to show how we can achieve a sound that's close or very, very close to a single coil guitar sound. So like a classic kind of clean Stratocaster tone from a guitar that has humbuckers. We have a bridge and a neck humbucker, and as you might expect, this, although it's quite a neutral sounding guitar, as in, I think it doesn't have any real kind of quirks or characteristics that stand out and give it a particular sound of its own, it still has this sort of well-rounded, I suppose, depth and warmth that you expect to get from humbuckers, really. So I use this guitar quite a lot for things like playing Guns N' Roses songs, trying to kind of get that slash sound, and playing Darkness songs, because obviously they use Les Pauls, and it's really kind of a Les Paul copy. But for the purposes of this video, we're going to see if we can change up that tone that we get sort of naturally from this guitar, and see if we can move that closer to what you might expect to get from a Strat. So when I play it just through the Boss Katana, through the clean channel, with all the EQ set to 12 o'clock, so bass, treble and middle, 12 o'clock, this is kind of what it sounds like. It's got that real kind of richness, I think, and it's really just quite a lot of bottom end, and a fairly kind of high amount of mid, which is just naturally what comes from the pickups. So if I was trying to, let's say, play a Bon Jovi song where I want it to sound a bit more like Richie Sambora's Strat, for example, this doesn't really sound that much like it as it is right now. So even if I put it on the bridge pickup, because that was on the neck pickup, so it has a darker sound anyway. So if I want to try and make it sound a little bit brighter and a bit more top-endy, I can switch to the bridge pickup, and this is what it sounds like. It's got a bit more brightness to it, but I think you'll agree that still doesn't sound anything like a Strat. But if I utilise my my EQ, I will I'll go and switch that on now. And I'll pop a picture in the edit to show you what I've done with the settings. But basically, I've reduced a little bit of the bottom end, not too much. I've boosted up the treble significantly, and kind of scooped a little bit of the mid, just to give it that sort of glassier tone, that that more what people describe as the ice pick kind of tone or sound, particularly that you get from sort of like the bridge single coil pickup of a Strat. So let's see what it sounds like now. I think that sounds quite Stratty. It's certainly very twangy, and I think actually if I were to add a little bit of reverb, which we'll talk about in terms of what is essential in your kind of setup, in your rig, your toolkit, but lots of amps have reverb anyway on them, so I'm not going to necessarily say that you need a reverb pedal as such. I'm just going to put on a little bit of reverb so it doesn't sound so dry. So that's sort of at about 10 o'clock on my on my dial, on my reverb dial. Let's see what it sounds like now. Sounds a lot nicer, and I think sounds a bit closer to where I'm trying to get to with this particular Bon Jovi song. I think I would like to add a tiny bit of delay as well. We are going to talk about delay. This isn't something that all amps necessarily come with. Most modelling amps will, but I think it's an essential. I'm not saying that you have to have it and you can't play without it, but it's just such a common feature of so many bands and guitarists and guitar-based music. I'm really struggling to think of any guitarists that I know actually that don't use delay in their signal chain. I don't know, if Nuno says he doesn't, maybe he doesn't, but I know that just most rock guitarists certainly do. So let's see what this sounds like now. I think we're certainly getting there, getting much closer to the tone I want to achieve, and that is just using the EQ and a couple of the most basic effects on my amp, the clean channel. I could probably go for a little bit of gain actually, so if I put that up to about 10 o'clock as well, let's see if are we anywhere near that Richie Sambora sound? Anywhere near to it. I actually think that might be a little too much high end, even for a Strat. So if I switch to the neck pickup, just let's see if it alters that kind of really harsh twanginess. How about both? That's, I think, sounding a little bit more kind of clear and bell-like. It's got that nice single coil sound that kind of cuts through without having too much of the harshness, I think. Let's just check again. I think it's definitely a kind of mixture of the two pickups, because the bridge pickup is too bright almost, and the neck pickup isn't giving enough of that kind of twang that you really want. You want that characteristic, but just not too much of it. So it is a balance, and I think what I could probably do is have another little mess around with the EQ pedal and see if I can just kind of smooth it a little bit more. Okay, so what I did was kind of smooth out the mids a little bit, and I think I'd been a bit too stingy on the bass, so I upped the bass a tiny bit, but whilst making sure that all the treble is still there. I think, to my ears anyway, that sounds pretty much spot on. It's different, it certainly is different, but I'm getting the clarity, the top end, the sort of purity and the bell-like quality that I'm looking for from those kind of single coil tones, without this guitar being coil tapped or having any single coil pickups, which I think is pretty great. I mean, you know, you could even kind of, I think, go somewhere like this. Which usually is played, the Jeff Buckley version, on his famous Telecaster, which, again, has single coil pickups, but I think I could quite happily do a version of that using this guitar, which, you know, just through the use of the Joe-Yo EQ pedal, makes this even more of a versatile guitar, really, than it already was. So, you know, I might have just decided to stick with this and never ever buy another guitar had I had that EQ pedal. However, we all know that that's not true anyway, because I'm still going to always want a Jag Stang, for example. We want what we want, don't we? The heart wants what the heart wants. But in terms of tone, you don't necessarily have to buy a new guitar or a new amp. You just need to mess around with the EQ a bit and get an EQ pedal to help you do that. So for the second demonstration, I'm going to be using the guitar that I made when I was 16, which is this one. And as you can see, we've got two single coil pickups here in the neck and middle position. I do have a humbucker on this guitar, but it's the only guitar I have that actually has got single coil pickups. I know there's the RG550, but to be honest, I don't think the middle single coil pickup really counts for anything, like in general. It's a fantastic guitar, it's fabulous, but let's face it, who has ever owned an RG550 and used the middle single coil pickup? Anyway, so what we're going to focus on is how we can make the single coil pickup or pickups sound more like a guitar that has humbuckers, like a Les Paul or an SG, that type of guitar. How we can kind of achieve that tone not using the humbucker, only using one or both of these pickups. And I'm going to show you how I've used the EQ pedal to achieve that. And just so that you kind of know that I'm not cheating. I know that you trust me and you know I'm not cheating anyway, but I just need to talk you through a little bit of how the controls are set up on this guitar, because as you've probably noticed, it doesn't have a selector switch. Because 16-year-old me, in my infinite wisdom when I made this, decided for some reason that selector switches are for losers. I decided to wire the pickups in series and have them controlled by a pot here. So what we've got essentially is a volume and kind of a tone control, but it's not really. So the volume is just a volume, a log pot, 500k log pot that just, you know, goes 1 to 10. It's pretty bog standard. In order to select the pickups, what you do is you kind of start from 0, and that will give you just the neck pickup. Then you can kind of go to about 3 or 4 if you want to kind of blend the neck and middle pickup. I mean, this isn't exact, this is approximate, and you have to mess around with it, so it's quite difficult to like just select the middle, but it's around 4 or 5 more or less. And then kind of anything beyond that, you're starting to bring in the humbucker. And then if you go all the way to 10, you have just the isolated humbucker. So that's sort of how it works. Just to show you the difference very quickly, if you haven't seen any of my other videos or the videos where I've demonstrated the different sounds, I'm just going through the clean channel, clean amp model on the Boss Katana at the moment. All the EQ settings on the amp itself are at 12 o'clock. I've got the gain up at about 10 o'clock, and no other effects. So just to sort of demonstrate the difference in sound, and so that you know that I am actually using the single coils. This is what the neck pickup sounds like. Bit of shadows there. Bet you didn't think I knew that, did you? Just to demonstrate that that neck pickup has got those real single coil characteristics that you would expect. It's bright, it's twangy, it's got a lot of top end, which is brilliant in the right context. And actually, it's pretty good for some of the Bon Jovi stuff that I've been playing. And I've done the intro to Wanted Dead or Alive quite a few times for sort of shorts and different other videos, and I generally will use the neck pickup on this guitar to do that. So that's what that sounds like by itself, just on the clean channel with all the EQ at 12 o'clock. There's a bit of gain at about 10 o'clock. But that's all at the moment, no other effects. As opposed to, say, if I now put it all the way up to 10 and compare what it sounds like against the humbucker. That just has a much more kind of richer, deeper, warmer, fatter sound without doing anything else to it. So we're not going to be using that, so I'm going to put this back down to 0 before I forget. I'm going to be trying to play the intro and a bit of the solo from Sweet Child of Mine. We're going to be trying to get somewhere close to or reminiscent of the tone that Slash uses. Obviously he plays a Les Paul and he generally uses the neck humbucker. So we're going to be trying to emulate that sound. And obviously, as things are right now, if I just use the neck pickup, this is what it would sound like. It's really throwing me off because whenever I play it, I generally use my Paul Reed Smith guitar with humbuckers, so it sounds really weird. It's really throwing me off. But yeah, I think you'll agree that sounded very weedy and thin, and not really like it at all. despite even the bad playing, just the sound of it was not right. So what I'm going to try to do is use the EQ pedal and see if we can shape the tone so it's a bit closer to what it sounds like when Slash plays it. As you will have seen in the picture just then, what I've done with the EQ pedal is basically the reverse of what I did in the first half, where I tried to get my humbuckers to sound like single coils. So I've just basically done the opposite of that. I've taken off all of the treble, like right down, boosted up, maxed out the mids, really boosted those up, and boosted up the bass frequencies. At the moment, I haven't changed any of the settings on the amp itself. All I've done is engage the EQ pedal, and let's see if that's made a significant difference. Now, I think that sounds significantly better already. It's not there yet. I think there's more that we need to do, but already just taking down that treble and boosting up the mids particularly has given it more punch, more depth, and it's reduced that sort of twanginess. So what I'm going to do is use the EQ settings on the amp now to again cut the treble, gonna max out the mids and put the bass probably up to at least 2 o'clock. Alright, let's give that a go. Okay, this is better. This is sounding better. It's getting there, I think. Right, we're getting there, but it's still obviously quite weak because we're just on the clean channel, and Slash wouldn't use that. So I'm gonna put it on a different amp model. All I'm gonna do is change it up to the crunch setting, and then we'll see again. I think that's not bad. That's not bad at all, actually. Now I'm going to throw on a bit of reverb, just so it's not quite so dry sounding. Got to get that 80s sound as well. So. a little bit of feedback. Not bad. I think we are, I don't know, 60%, 70% even of the way there. But what I'm going to do now is try putting the gain up a little bit. I might also, I think I've been a bit stingy on the bass, so I'm going to boost up the bass a little bit on the EQ pedal. As I say, put up the gain a little bit. And because these pickups are not particularly hot, well, this one certainly isn't, so I might need to use a little bit more gain. But I still don't want it, I don't want too much dirt in the sound, because Slash's tone is actually fairly clean on Sweet Child of Mine, so I don't want to kind of go too far in that direction. So let's see. Let's try the intro again. Okay, all I'm going to do now is just add a little bit of delay, because I think that's the secret sauce to this. And then I think we'll be 80-85% there. I think if you were at a gig playing live in front of an audience and you only had a guitar with single coils, if you deployed your EQ pedal and just some of the basic features of your amp, putting the gain up, mine's now up at about 2 o'clock, a bit of reverb, crank the volume up, I think your audience would recognise that as the sound of Sweet Child of Mine. I'd say you're 80-85% of the way there without having had to get a different guitar, a guitar with humbuckers. I think that is probably about as good as we're going to get, just deploying one single coil pickup. But to my ears anyway, again, at least, I think that sounds pretty good, actually, and I think your audience in the pub on a Friday night would think so as well. To summarise then, what have we learned in this video? What have we learned that can help us with our gear acquisition syndrome? We've learned a few things, I think. We've learned that a guitar with humbuckers can sound like a guitar with single coil pickups, and vice versa. Something I forgot to mention actually is all these here, all pointless, all complete pointless. If you use an EQ pedal, just whack everything up to 10, all the way up to 10. Basically disregard the volume and tone controls on your guitar. do nothing. They do nothing. Just put them all the way up. And even if you are trying to do the reverse thing of making a single coil guitar try to sound like it's got humbuckers, I know there'll be a temptation to roll the tone, if you have a tone control, which they most of them do, roll it right back. That doesn't help. You want to be putting all of the frequencies that you can, particularly the higher frequencies, into the signal chain, and you process it using the EQ and using the amp settings. But you want all of that signal to be picked up by the pickups and put into the signal chain. Otherwise, you're just going to end up with something that sounds very, very muddy and lacking in clarity. I suppose the only real use that I've come across of the volume control is that you use it like a tone control. And I know that this is something that most of you will know, or you probably all know, really. But if you're using a particular pickup, you can use the volume control of that pickup to kind of clean up the sound. So if you've got a lot of gain on your amp, or quite a lot of distortion, you're using like a lead channel or a crunch channel or something, you can roll off, as long as you keep the volume kind of relatively high on the EQ and on the amp, you can roll off the volume on the guitar to clean up the sound, so to kind of reduce the amount of kind of dirt that you get in the sound. I know most of you know that. Anyway, I didn't know that. So that's something that I've learned, and I'll put links to the kind of particular videos where I've picked up these hints and tips, particularly useful. I'll put the links in the description, because I haven't come up with this stuff myself. I'm not going to take credit for having the ideas. These are just some curated ideas, I guess, that I've found, and I am passing on to people who maybe, like me, weren't aware of it. I also had quite a lot of help from my partner, who knows an awful lot more about sound processing than I do. So he's sort of helped me to mess around with things and achieve the sounds that I've managed to get from my guitars and from my amp and EQ pedal. So cheers, Matt, for that as well. But I think we've learnt that the basic gear that you need really kind of boils down to a guitar and an amp, obviously, of your choice, and an EQ pedal as an absolute bottom line essential. No matter what Nuno says, you need one. I need one. We all need one, okay? Doesn't have to be the Joyo. There are loads and loads out there. I'm going to put a link to the one that I've been using anyway, on Amazon. And by the way, I'm in no way sponsored by any of these companies, or in no way am I trying to sell you anything. But I think this was a reasonably priced pedal, and it's actually on offer at the moment, so you can get it for even less, which I think is a superb deal. So I'm going to put the link to that. But other than that, a bit of reverb, which always helps, doesn't it? I just think reverb helps with everything, doesn't it, in life? Let's face it, let's be honest. You need reverb. Everyone needs reverb. But other than that, really, I think it's probably useful or nice to have some kind of delay effect or some kind of delay pedal. Again, it just helps to really build out the sound. It makes everything that you play sound that little bit more epic, and as long as you don't sort of overdo it and end up sounding like The Edge, which I know he was massively influential and everything, but I think we're sort of all over it now. No one wants to sound like U2 now, right? But yeah, you do. I think probably need a little bit of delay, because when you listen to most of the songs that you probably like, those guitarists are using delay, not in an obvious way, but in a way that does build out and thicken and enhance the sound. But some of this can also be done in kind of post-processing as well. So if you have software, for example, you can also kind of add effects to it when you're recording. So recording is probably an entirely kind of different video, and maybe I'll explore some more about that. But certainly in a live situation, if you want to do kind of a variety of different songs, this kind of thing would have saved me when I was in my band from bringing 4 or 5 different guitars to a gig in which we were playing 4 or 5 songs, and therefore spent most of the time standing there tuning, which is not a good look, and it is, just not a good idea. You can take the one guitar, your favourite guitar, any of your guitars, and just use your EQ, and as long as you've got like a quick handy reference for the settings, and you'll get to learn very quickly actually how to quickly adjust those settings, then you'll be absolutely fine. You'll be onto a winner. You'll be good to go. And I think, by doing that, you will have saved yourself some time, some money, and you will give yourself a better chance of actually performing your songs. So hopefully that's been fairly helpful. A lot of you will have known all this stuff anyway, so you're probably saying, oh, tell us something we don't know. But this is my journey that I'm sharing with you, and hopefully with a lot of other people who are maybe in my position and are coming across some of this stuff for the first time. So I hope to kind of be inclusive here, and just give everyone a little bit of advice that I've found, and pass it on, and hope it's of some use. Even if you already knew all this stuff, I would still be interested in hearing from you. Do you think that I actually nailed it, or am I completely talking rubbish and it didn't sound anything like what I think it sounded like in my head? So yeah, let me know. What did you think? Anyway, thanks for watching as always, and see you next time.